speaker also said. Uh, we've got with us someone very, very special, a transformation leader with 2 decades of experience in corporate development, integration, and branding. At GTT Data, she has driven large scale growth by unifying 7 acquired companies. And can you beat that? I repeat, 7 acquired companies. She is the founding member of the Women Elevation Allies Foundation, we call as WELEs, pioneering initiatives on AI ethics, bias, and inclusivity. A global speaker, a podcaster, an advocate for women in leadership. Ronita brings a unique perspective that blends technology, transformation, and human impact. We're talking about bias in AI and systems. Who gets left behind is the topic. I want you to please welcome the wonderful Ronita Sengupta. Ronita, thank you very much for joining us. We are waiting to know what's going to be your insights and your perspective on the topic.
Thank you so much for inviting me in this event. Extremely honored to be here.
Awesome. Do you want me to share the screen?
All right. So, hello, and I think good evening, good afternoon and good morning to a lot of you who have been in this particular event, who are participating in this event from across, the globe, from different countries. And I know that I'm not here to talk about AI energy as an expert. I'm not an expert in AI energy, but being a women elevation activist, being a founder of, the foundation called Realize, I have committed myself to kind of look at AI biases that are existing in a lot of systems and segments today where we are introducing AI. And I'm just here to share certain insights, some thoughts with all of you, which I'm sure will go a long way in building energy as one of the most important and pivotal segment of our society, because we cannot exist without energy. And we know that AI is doing some phenomenal work in the energy systems by transforming it, by making it more efficient, reliable, and sustainable. However, there is an important hidden challenge. There is a risk where we are talking about AI bias that exists in the energy segment today. And, I'm here to share my insights with you because I believe that if we can address the AI biases in the energy segment, we can prevent the segment from creating unfair outcomes and prevent it from undermining the goal of equitable energy access. That's what my session today here will talk about. May I request the second slide to come up on the screen, please? Okay, thank you. Now, I would like to put a little bit of, focus on what is AI bias in energy. And I know that, there could be a lot of perceptions, a lot of thoughts from the industry experts out here today. But when I look at AI bias in energy, I look at AI bias in energy system that occurs when algorithms that are trained on non-representative, non-representative or incomplete data, systematically favoring certain groups, regions, or outcomes over others is what I am looking at from the AI bias point of view. Now, this can reinforce historical inequalities or misallocate resources or drive up cost for the vulnerable populations and also hinder the fair access to clean and reliable energy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you a case study on bias grid management. Now, we know that there are AI powered smart grid management that optimizes the electricity distribution and improves the grid stability. However, if the AI models are trained mainly on urban data where smart meters are common, the AI may underprioritize the rural or the low income communities. And a national renewable energy laboratory study that I went through found that the AI driven grid upgrades were more often deployed in the affluent neighborhoods of our country, leaving underserved areas with less reliable service and higher cost. Now, unfortunately, this creates a cycle where those with less access fall further behind in the energy equity segment. Now, if I look at another case study, and I would like to highlight that, it's about energy efficiency and exclusion. Now, we are all aware that in the energy segment, AI systems also identify households that are most likely to benefit from energy efficiency programs like new insulation, efficient appliances. However, if the models are trained mostly on households with more digital data or higher spending power, let's understand, ladies and gentlemen, the low income or less connected communities may be overlooked. Now, these groups then miss out on upgrades, which will perpetuate, unfortunately, existing inequalities in energy use and cost savings. Now, my point that I would like to make here is that biased AI algorithms in energy systems can lead to unfair decisions such as uneven resource distribution and unreliable service for certain communities. This will happen because whenever we come across AI that is trained on incomplete or skewed data, which doesn't reflect the needs of all the areas or people in our society. Now, I will move on to the next case study, explaining this particular slide where we talk about grid modernization bias. Now, a utility company used AI to recommend infrastructure upgrades by analyzing data mostly from the urban and suburban neighborhoods with modern equipment. The system kept suggesting investments for these areas while they neglected the rural and low income communities with older grids. As a result, these neglected areas experienced more outages and poorer service, while the wealthier neighborhoods we saw received stronger and more reliable energy. Now, why does this happen? When AI models may only see the data they are given, missing the needs of the underrepresented groups, and where critical upgrades, maintenance, and pricing decisions get skewed, deepening the existing inequalities in the energy access and reliability stuff. Now, my concern over here is that marginalized communities and underserved regions would get most affected by AI bias in energy system when AI decision making is based on data that overlooks these groups. They end up with less reliable energy service, fewer upgrades, and less access to clean energy program. So this can mean less help with bills or upgrades, higher energy cost, and persistent energy poverty for those who are already struggling. Now, biased algorithms can cause dynamic pricing to hit vulnerable communities hardest, raising their cost and putting them further at risk. So that is where I would now like to come to the next slide. May I request slide number 3, please? Yeah, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah, after this. Yes, thank you very much. Well, now coming to this slide, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that AI powered predictive maintenance predicts when equipment will fail by analyzing sensor data. However, this data is mostly collected from modern and well maintained assets in wealthier areas and not from older infrastructure in poorer or remote communities. Now, when we talk about the following, concepts like a biased training data, AI systems learn from sensor data that is more available and reliable in affluent regions where obviously equipment is newer and well monitored. This means that the AI models are less equipped to identify problems in the older equipment, which is common in marginalized or rural communities. When we look at the other point, which is neglected infrastructure, now I think those of you who have been in the remotest area of India, okay, you will see that there are a lot of places where energy is still a wanted need of day to day life. While of course our cities are very well lit, we have proper infrastructure in energy, but there are many such areas in the furthest corner of our country that still needs that energy intervention. Now, when you have a neglected infrastructure where older and remote energy infrastructure is less likely to have advanced sensors, as a result, these areas will be under monitored by AI and it will be less likely to benefiting from proactive maintenance or early repairs. Now, let's talk about the disproportionate impact. Where communities are relying on these neglected systems, they are bound to face more frequent power outages and increased safety risk. Now, the result is that vulnerable populations who depend on reliable energy access the most, they will suffer from the biased AI maintenance systems. And that's the truth. I know that, I'm bringing on some very strong points here in this summit, but I think it's time for us to reflect on that and then, kind of gear up to see what best we can do with the AI intervention in the energy segment. May I now request for the next slide to be please, brought up on the screen? Thank you. Moving to the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that AI bias persists in energy systems for three main reasons, according to me. Number one, because I talk a lot about diversity, okay, I also find that there's a lack of diversity in training data, assumptions in system design, and minimal oversight or transparency that has caused a big gap in the energy part of, AI. Now, when we talk about data bias, AI models learn from data. I think that's what all AI models do across the world. But energy consumption and infrastructure data, they would often miss out the rural, low income, and minority communities. As a result, AI systems may become less accurate and obviously unfair for these groups, continuously overlooking their needs and their unique patterns. When we look at design assumptions, developers that we have who are working on these designs, or they're obviously creating these designs, may unintentionally design AI to prioritize their operational goals like efficiency and cost saving over fairness as well as equitable access. Now, this bias in design means the social factors and the needs of disadvantaged communities get sidelined, deepening existing inequalities in our society. Now, when I talk about lack of oversight, well, I'm talking about the fact that many AI systems that could be deployed in the energy segment may lack real transparency and regulatory review. So without strong oversight, biases in data and design go unchecked, which obviously makes it very challenging to spot and correct problems that harm vulnerable populations. So in short, AI bias sticks around because not enough attention is paid to representing all communities in the data. Design choices are often made without keeping fairness in mind, and there isn't enough outside, the monitoring mechanisms to review to keep things accountable. So I think it's time that we also start, paying attention to this fact and consider it when we go with more energy upliftment and interventions in different segments of society. I would now like to request the next slide to be please put up on the screen. And here we are going to be talking about a couple of mitigation strategy, which I feel, we will have to put our thinking hats on. So as far as mitigation strategies are concerned, I think from one of the top mitigation strategy would be to reduce AI bias in energy by involving and making data sets more diverse and constantly updated. Now, on this point, I would like to bring your attention to the fact that we must look at comprehensive data collection. Energy usage and infrastructure information needs to come from all areas, different income groups, rural and urban location, and a mix of communities, because this ensures that AI understands and serves everyone needs, not just a small segment. When we look at stratified sampling, I believe that using stratified sampling means dividing the population into subgroups like geography, income, or building type, and collecting data from each of this group, because this will guarantee fair and proportional representation, making sure that no group is left out or underrepresented. And regular updates. I believe that updating data sets regularly will help AI recognize changes over time, including new communities being involved and shifting consumption habits. Without this, I'm afraid that AI predictions quickly can become outdated and less fair. And gathering data from every segment, sampling proportionally, and updating often will help AI work better for everyone in energy systems. May I request for the next slide to be please put up on the screen? Can we go to mitigation strategy two? Please come up with the next slide. Yeah, thank you. When we talk about mitigation strategy two, ladies and gentlemen, we are focusing on using smarter AI methods to ensure fairness and transparency in energy decisions. We look at fairness constraints because when we are building AI models, engineers add mathematical fairness rules. And I'm sure that these rules will help the AI balance efficiency with social equity, making sure marginalized groups are not unfairly impacted by its decisions. When we look at explainable AI tools, teams use specialized software that can explain what the AI did and why. And I'm sure these tools will help spot and fix biased choices in the algorithm, providing transparency and helping everyone trust the decisions. And then there is ensemble methods. It's a common example is the ensemble methods. They run different AI models together, preventing any single bias model from dominating the decisions. And I think this approach can greatly reduce bias because diverse models catch each other's mistakes. So, in simple terms, I think using fairness rules, transparency tools, and a mix of models ensures AI in energy is more fair, open, and balanced for all communities. May I request for the mitigation three slide to be please put up? And I think coming to the fact that there should be inclusive development and continuous auditing, I'm sure everyone present here would agree that AI will still need monitoring, review mechanisms, and governing bodies, which we can have through diverse teams, through regular audits, and by having transparency. Based on the policy, the decisions we are making, how we are looking at interventions, to play around in the mitigation strategy, because I believe that inclusivity will add to further and better mitigation of AI in the energy segment. And I think continuous auditing, governance, and checks to and fro and on time will also help us to give better energy services to our communities. So, yes, with that, I would request you to come to the last slide, please. Conclusion, I believe that we are all working towards equitable AI in energy, and we have tremendous potential to ensure that energy as a segment reaches every household in our country, in our nation, in our society. Okay. And it can definitely play a pivotal role in transforming the lives of people in a very positive way. There are a lot of, energy experts here present today, and I'm sure that nobody can say this better than all of you, all the experts present here. But with a little bit of governance, with a little bit of hindsight, and some bit of monitoring and inclusivity and diversity, as well as checks that we can, keep with the AI segment in energy, we will do some phenomenal work. So thank you very much, and let's put forward to our commitment to making this society, this nation, a society, and our communities better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronita. There was really, really sharp insights and, of course, some strong information there. I'll turn to Naresh. Naresh, any questions to be asked to Ronita? Ronita, would you be is
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ronita, for such an insightful session. Of course, indeed, we have learned that AI bias is there in energy system. It's not a technical glitch, but it's more of a systematic challenge rooted in data gaps and lack of oversight. So I just want to jump into direct question is what are the current or biggest barriers to collect, especially stratified sampling data from a rural and undeserved communities? So what are the key barriers uh, the industry as such is facing?
I think, if I look at what is standing between us and the rural community is the right intervention, sir. We really do not have enough invested engagement or authorities taking this up seriously and the right proactiveness that we need. If we can have the right policy and decision makers, coming, let's say, in this particular segment to help us build those channels of, direct data collection, being there doing ample research to understand how we can incorporate AI in right way when it comes to the underserved communities or the underrepresented communities with proper data collection, sample collection, and also technology experts giving enough time to understand that how we can make AI inclusive by ensuring that we have the right data. So as I said, the more data that we have, the more diverse data we have, we can reach out to the furthest corner of our society, of our country, in ensuring that energy is equitably distributed. So I believe that if we can have the right intervention, the right policy, the right change makers in place, we would be able to capture this data in the appropriate way that we are looking at.
Yeah, thanks for that. I second that completely. And do you have any suggestions, or I mean, it's not that I'm trying to think, but it is more like to have a wider a breadth of thinking. Do you have any suggestions on the governance or frameworks, particularly on the auditing mechanisms? Do you have any recommendations so that it becomes transparency and also clear accountability is there? while we don't
I
stifle the
Yeah, I
innovation.
believe. Yes,
Yeah.
so I believe that the energy industry, along with the governments, okay, the government bodies that we have, we these both institutes have to come together to build that intervention where there is equal participation, equal involvement of both the AI companies, the energy companies, and the government bodies to come up with a robust system on how we can inclusively participate and cooperate and engage in ensuring that we get this data in place, the sample in place, and have the right policy and decision making body to ensure that there should not be any challenge while we are stepping into this particular path of uh, ensuring that AI is systematically attributed and rightly used in the energy division. So I believe it definitely is a mix, and it's a participative body of the government, of the energy industry, as well as the AI company, who are obviously going to be involved into this energy segment to come together and engage instead of having any I would say differences of thoughts or
Yeah.
differences of participation here. I think it's more of a cohesive body that should come together. It cannot be one man's show. It has to be everybody's show. It has to be the government. It has to be the infrastructure, the energy industry, as well as the AI companies coming together to make this a common participative model. So that's what I believe in.
Agree, agree. Innovation must go hand in hand with responsibility, and it is a concerted
Absolutely.
effort. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
that's quite interesting questions. It gives us a wider perspective of Ronita's message. I now turn to Engineer Abdul Salam's role. So, any questions from your side?
Well, thank you, Ronit, for amazing topic you have selected. Actually, because in the industry that we have, we tend to overlook certain points. Actually, I would like to ask you how can the energy companies ensure transparency and accountability in the AI-driven decision making? This is this is something that we know it is being a machine learning process is there, and later on the decision making is basically taken by machine. How do you think the accountability and transparency can be measured through this procedure?
Um, I believe in one thing that when energy as a source, it's for the entire society, okay, and somebody has to take that accountability of ensuring that energy is proportionately distributed amongst all. I I'm of the opinion that when it comes to the energy based companies, they should have a very strong voice when it comes into the policy and the governance making body, sir. And I think for that, energy companies must also have representatives reaching out to the different segments or strata of let's say the society, the country, the communities, to figure out how and what is the existing you know uh, position of energy in people's life, like which are the communities who are getting left out, which are the communities who are probably suffering the most because of this unequitable distribution of energy across the segment. If you can have a robust report on that, and that can be presented to the governing body, I think the energy industry or the energy companies can make a huge difference when it comes to the policy making, or taking proper governing steps to ensure that AI biases are ruled out into the energy segment. I think research, equal representation, and I think engaging with the communities by the energy companies would be one of the ways of ensuring that we mitigate this problem, because you have to get to the roots. Unless you're there on the field, unless you talk to people, unless you go and see for yourself that what the rural India, or let's say the furthest most corners of our country is facing, I think the problem will not be resolved, sir. So I think we need people on ground to go ahead and have a look at what exactly the other communities are suffering from when it comes to the energy distribution across the society.
Thanks a lot.
Well, that's interesting. Thank you very much. And somebody once mentioned the nation that controls energy will control its future. Thank you, Ronita, for those wonderful insights. Thank you, Naresh. Thank you, Abdul Salam, for those questions as well. I think.